Navy detected a potential implosion or explosion sound with its top secret acoustic system on the day of the disappearance of the Titan submersible. Got some questions. Let's dive in. Hi everyone, Empowering True Crime Alex here, and this has been such a tragedy, but also such an up and down of emotions for everyone, for the entire world who's been following this case. I can't even imagine what the family is going through. Let's take a moment of silence for the 5 victims of this terrible tragedy and their loved ones. We're picking up the pieces now. So before we dive in, make sure to subscribe to my channel if you want latest breaking news on this case and other true crime news. All right, so here is what the authorities are saying. The U.S. Navy detected the Titan sub implosion with top secret acoustic system day the vessel went missing. The Titan lost contact with the surface vessel, the Polar Prince, around 1 hour and 45 minutes into its dive Sunday morning. The U.S. Navy detected what it suspected may have been an implosion within hours of the Titan submersible descending into the ocean to visit the Titanic wreckage. U.S. defense officials said the Navy began listening for the Titan immediately after the vessel lost communication with the mothership, approximately 1 hour and 45 minutes into its mission Sunday morning. The official said the Navy's top-secret acoustic detection system picked sounds that were consistent with either an explosion or an implosion near where the Titan was found on Thursday. The Navy passed on that information to the Coast Guard, which continued to its search because the Navy did not consider the data to be definitive. While not definitive, this information was immediately shared with the incident commander to assist with the ongoing search and rescue mission, the official said in a statement. If these reports are accurate, the acoustic data point is useful in light of the confirmation that we received today, but would not have been sufficient to suspend the search and rescue effort, only to possibly refine the search area, said retired Vice Admiral Robert Murrett, a professor of practice at Syracuse University's Maxwell School. The U.S. Coast Guard confirmed earlier Thursday that a debris field found early in the day was the missing Titan submersible. U.S. Coast Guard Rear Admiral John Mauger told reporters that the debris was consistent with the catastrophic loss of the pressure chamber. All right, so here are the questions, and let me know what your questions are. 1, why didn't they share that publicly? So they didn't share it publicly at the beginning, I would say, presumably because this top secret detection system, they might not want to share any information about that. But then they shared it at the end, like within minutes of the press conference, they shared that. So why share it at all? Should have shared it at the beginning, or at least at the earlier stages instead of at the end of the search. Number 1. Number 2, why say that there was banging noises found and heard? Why share that, but not share that there was a potential implosion heard, right? So then there was almost like this false hope. Then knowing that there was a potential implosion, they gave this information about the banging to provide this hope, which ended up being false hope. At the very least, provide both. Say, there were you don't even have to say it was a top secret. Why even say the top secret thing? Nobody needed to say that. They could have just said detection things in place, heard a potential sound, could have been consistent around the same time. Like they ended up giving, it was so interesting that they didn't give that information at the beginning, and then they ended up kind of like oversharing. That's where I start to have questions. When people don't share and then they overshare. Numerous cases do this, and this is why, as a former publicist and media trainer and communications person, talking sometimes to the public as a spokesperson, I'm really mindful of this and what information should be shared and when. And so this is why people would mistrust, especially government agencies, when they do things like this. They didn't even need to mention anything about a top secret system. They didn't even have to say the Navy. You could have just said it and nobody would have even known or cared to ask. We just take their word for it. So anyway, very passionate about this, obviously. All right, so they didn't say it on the beginning, then they overshare information after the submersible was found to have been imploded based on the ROV that was deployed. So if they would have given both bits of information and said, we did hear something that could have been an implosion or explosion, and we heard banging sounds that could be consistent with a man-made sounds made inside the submersible. That way, the public has all the information, and the families too. I'm assuming they didn't tell the families about the potential implosion sound. The families and everyone, the public, has complete information. And there was always the potential that it was an implosion. Always. Many people have said that it was an implosion. We just were all holding, at least me, holding out hope that it hadn't imploded, or that nothing had happened to, that it hadn't gotten flooded or anything else happened. And that that they were alive, and it was just this whole like race for them to be found because of the oxygen. So they didn't say it at the beginning, then they overshare at the end. So again, given the information that there could have been an implosion or explosion, even though it wasn't definitive, then I find it very strange that it took a while to get the ROVs there. The Magellan was a private company that was offering to provide their equipment earlier in the search, and they were delayed getting there. They might have been able to get there sooner and been able to search the ground. The other, apparently, I cannot verify this, but there are reports that the ROVs from France was also held up in customs. I cannot confirm that. I haven't been able to find any source that confirms that, but those are like the speculations that have been out there. And then there's also, so much search that was done, so much search effort. The ROV got to the site and found them exactly where the implosion would have occurred, very close to the Titanic, right? So it does, I'm not saying this was a huge mobilization effort, sure. I do find that it was a little bit slow on getting the ROVs there. Now, the other gripe that I have, apart from all of the safety measures that the Titan didn't have or didn't seem to have in place, even with the communication with mothership, if you're going to pay that much money for a submersible to go so far deep where you don't have the Coast Guard right at your beck and call, or other resources right at your beck and call, then they should have had an ROV in place, or hired every time they went out, hired an ROV, or even a Coast Guard, right? Like they can pay for emergency services to be on hand. So obviously, massive failure on the part of the OceanGate and their contingencies that weren't in place, right? Because their backup should not be the Coast Guard. They should have their own systems in place, especially if you're taking tourists out there. So that on that part. And then on the part of the search teams, there were some missing communication there as well. And I feel like that I almost wonder if, let me know your thoughts on this, the fact that they came out and said, hey, we heard in the implosion on day one, was almost like there's like this military competition of like us versus them, like the Army against the Navy, against the Marines, against the Coast Guard. And I wonder if there was kind of like that whole like, hey, we found the Navy, the Navy, we heard that noise with day one. And I mean, egos, right? I mean, the reason we're even talking about this is because of egos. People who thought, in the case of the Titanic, they were better than the warnings that they got. In the case of the Titan, they were better than the warnings that they got as well. So egos. Just again, I'm always big on learning lessons. How can we learn from this? How can we grow from this? What can we take away from this? And yes, so I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments. And if you like this video, if you learned something, please hit the thumbs up. And if you haven't yet subscribed to my channel, I'd appreciate if you join the empowering family, and let's be a voice for the voiceless. And let's remember the 5 passengers who tragically died. And with that, stay safe, stay thriving, always follow your intuition, and remember to keep it empowering. Bye for now.
Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell button for notifications. Thank you!